Hey everyone, and welcome back to FSi DFS. I'm McKinley412, and today we're going to be looking at this Sunday main slate. It's going to be looking like a good slate. We got quite a few pitching options from top tier all the way down to kind of some value plays that I do enjoy or won't mind playing, even in cash games. So a lot of nice pitchers on the slate. No weather that we have to be concerned about at all, which is fantastic. So I mean, we could just dive right into this. You can kind of see where I laid things out, just in my rankings at this point. Favorite high tier pitcher, mid tier, cheap, and then pitchers that I don't want to be touching them at all. And then kind of my favorite bat plays as well. But we'll talk a little bit more in depth about them here as we go. I will say I just woke up. I had a very long night. The joys of having a young child in your house. So if I'm sounding a little different today, if I'm just not fully there, that is why. So bear with me. But yeah, let's just kind of start up at the top. Kevin Gausman up at the top, 10.2K, pretty decent price tag for him. He did get a slight bump. His strikeouts in the past 5 games have declined significantly compared to where he was. He started off the season and he was just guns a-blazing, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts a game. But he's certainly drawn back. Now he's going up against Minnesota. Minnesota has some pretty nice left-handed bats in their lineup. So, I mean, he's still a top option on the slate, but I do think he's more of like the 1B. You can see I have him ranked below Giolito. I think Giolito is probably my favorite pitcher on this slate, especially just kind of where he's at this point. Last game, he struggled a little bit with, the contact. It's Toronto. That's a tough matchup. He's going up against Tampa Bay, a decent team for sure. But Tampa Bay does strike out quite a bit. They're in the top 5 strikeout rate as a team against right-handed pitching in the past month. So Giolito, his strikeouts have been, pretty high, 7, 8, 9, 10 past couple of games. And now he's going up against a team that is one of the worst against right-handed pitching in terms of, strikeout percentage. So I do think Giolito is probably my favorite pitcher on this slate, and he comes at a $600 discount off of Gausman. Eric Lauer, I don't have him in this tier list, as you can kind of see. He's not a fade for me. Like, he's a fine play, especially in GPP. He certainly has that ceiling. But given the other pitchers that are around him, and given the matchup going up against San Diego, I know they've had their offensive struggles. I just feel that there's better plays that you can go to, given the floor that he has, given the matchup, and then just given the price and, the other pitchers that are around him. In GPP, totally fine with it. No issues there. But I do like the pitchers around him far better. So Gallen going up against Pittsburgh. Totally fine. I think I have him ranked 4th here. The matchup is great for him. Going up against Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh strikes out quite a bit. I mentioned that Tampa Bay is, I think in the past month, they were ranked 6th in strikeouts against right-handed pitching as a team. Pittsburgh was right above them at 5th. So Gallen could easily have 7, 8 strikeouts in this game. And if he can get you 7, 8 strikeouts against a weak Pittsburgh team and can, keep it under 2 or fewer runs, he's definitely got enough upside to have a pretty solid DFS game. Valdez, he's been doing great lately. You can kind of see just his logs here. Complete game. He went 114 pitches. I kind of just have a little hesitation playing pitchers the start after a complete game. Just kind of the trends and the analytics say that, they do tend to struggle just a little bit more than usual if they do go a full game, if they do go, double digit over their usual pitch count. So that is my one hesitation. However, he's got a nice matchup going up against Kansas City. This is a total ground ball pitcher. So, I mean, there's not really any wins that we should be paying attention to. But Valdez, I think he's a pretty safe option for you if you do go at this down here. Sandoval, I think he's going to be fairly popular as well. Where do I have him? Yeah, I have him in the mid tier just because I think there's so many guys priced above 9K. I just put him over here. But Sandoval is my favorite, quote, mid tier guy. Going up against Philly, they got the new manager now. So we'll see how they're going to be doing. He's got, the strikeout potential, but he also has a floor that's pretty limited. So while I do think he is probably the best play, I mean, when you compare him to, Clevenger and Eunice, I think he's the best play, but still, I'm not super jazzed about him, but still, I'm saying but still a lot. I'm still waking up. Apologies. All right, continuing on Clevenger. He's coming off the IL. I don't know how far in the game he's really going to go. If you do want to play him, fine. I put him below Castillo just because I don't know how far into the game he's going to go. Eunice, he's a complete fade for me. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I just don't think Eunice is that great of a pitcher. You can kind of see he gets pulled often when he's only in like the mid 60s pitch count. And at 8.5K, I just don't think it's worth it, especially going up against this Miami lineup, who have some pretty powerful bats. Castillo, I think, is going to be popular. I think he's going to see quite a bit of ownership. We know the upside of this guy, but we know that in years past, this guy can really, bomb for you as well. So Washington could make for a nice like GPP option for you. And so I don't even have them on the list. I should put them on the list here. But I think Washington could make for a nice GPP just because Castillo, he has that, yikes upside or floor to him that we've seen in seasons past, but he also has an insane ceiling. So 7.9K, he's got a nice matchup going up against Washington. I think that he can be a solid option for you at 7.9K. And I think he could be pretty popular. Thompson, I don't want anything of Thompson. Smeltzer, he's had a great start to the season. He's got a real tough matchup going up against Toronto. And, the game logs, yeah, they look nice, but he was facing Kansas City, Detroit, and Cleveland. Toronto is a different type of offense. So I could definitely see him struggling. I could see people, kind of looking at the logs and being like, hey, it's going to be a nice play here for us at just 7.2K. But I have him below Gibson. I have Toronto as a nice GPP play just because if Smeltzer does, if we do notice that he is getting some ownership, Toronto, those bats going up against that guy, I think could do some damage. Yarbrough, lefty going up against Chicago White Sox. I don't like ever playing lefties against the White Sox. Gibson. How did I forget about Gibson? I think this is your other like popular cheap play for Philly. The Angels, I don't know what's going on with the Angels offense. They've really been struggling as of late. Mike Trout is just in this massive, I think I saw on Twitter last night, he's in like the longest hitless streak of his entire career. And when Trout's not going, I mean, the whole team's probably going to be struggling around him. So Gibson, I think, is probably going to be a pretty popular SP2 value play. He's my favorite cheap pitcher. I don't mind him at all. I think he can be just fine at just 7K or 7K. Everybody else, I don't really want to be touching. Plesac, maybe just given the matchup against Baltimore, but I think Baltimore could easily get to him. Plesac can really struggle, so I got Baltimore. I mean, they're a cheap team, but I mean, they could easily slide into, kind of into this category over here. So turning towards the bats, it's another. So yeah, that's kind of the pitching list. Turn towards the bats. Houston, they're going to be the chalky play probably. I think they have the highest implied run total at like 5.7. I think is what I saw. So Houston for sure is going to be your number one, going up against Heasley and the Kansas City bullpen. So Heasley is, what is he? He's a right-handed pitcher, so you get all those left-handed bats for Houston. The only issue with Houston, I was noticing a little rain cloud there. Is there rain in Houston today? 1 second, let me check the old phone app. The only issue with Houston, as I'm kind of like finding this here, is when you're stacking their lefties, they're all in the outfield. So it makes kind of pairing them with another team kind of tricky. Yeah, I don't see any rain in the forecast in Houston. DK, I don't know what's going on with you guys. But like, yeah, if you go with the Alvarez, Tucker, Brantley route, I mean, it just takes up your offense. I do that all the time. It takes away your outfield, and just, I don't know, it makes it kind of tricky, in my opinion, to pair them with another stack. But I mean, you could take, one of these guys out. Say you take out Tucker because he's batting, sixth in the lineup, and you want kind of a higher, and you want to go, Altuve, you don't want to go Bregman instead. Totally fine. I mean, where does this even put you? I haven't done any builds yet. If you put them with Giolito, you're looking at 4.3 remaining. You're probably gonna have to go cheap SP2. Say you go down to a Gibson, you're at 3.6. Okay, so salary, not gonna be too much of an issue here on this slate. You can go Giolito, you go Gibson as number 2. Even if you want to go up to Castillo at number 2, 3.4K, you go cheap at catcher, you're doing just fine, even with a very strong Houston stack. So Houston's gonna be my number 1 stack of the day. Probably everybody else's. Cincinnati, they also have a very high implied run total, and they're pretty cheap, especially if they're going to have a guy like Senzel. Let's see, how cheap is Senzel, do we think? Oh man, I'm not going to be. Oh, there he is, 2.4K. If this guy's leading off in a righty versus lefty matchup, one of the highest implied run totals on the slate, I think he's a fine outfield play. I didn't say offense. Outfield play at 2.4K. If you take away one of those Houston bats, I don't want to build a full lineup here for you, but say you want to take away Brantley from Houston and you want to put in Tommy Pham, who's been doing very well. He's been hitting the ball very well as of late. 5.4K. Maybe he's a nice pivot to Alvarez. Maybe Cincinnati is more of a GPP play. If you think a lot of the ownership is going to be going to Houston, that you can kind of pivot off of Houston and go towards Cincinnati. But I think Houston and Cincinnati, that's probably going to be your top 2 implied run totals, top 2 plays of the day. Just given the salary, Cincinnati is very cheap, as you can see. Houston, they're very affordable. Cleveland's probably going to be next. Cleveland going up against Corbin, I believe. Nope, Cincinnati's going up against Corbin. Going up against Kramer. Kramer, we've seen in years past, this guy, he's not a super great pitcher. He can certainly struggle at times. So I do like Houston, Cleveland, and their bats. I'm telling you guys, I'm running on like 2, maybe 3 hours of sleep here. It was a rough night, so I do apologize, but I do want to get this information out to you. But Cleveland going up against Kramer, that weak Baltimore bullpen behind him as well. I think they can really light it up. Obviously, you're going to be building around Jose Ramirez. Guys like Owen Miller, I think he could be a fine play for you as well, putting an Owen Miller into your lineups. And I'd probably start with those 2, Jose Ramirez, Owen Miller, and then build around them for Cleveland. Miami, I think, they can do well. That's just me going up against Eunice and San Francisco. Hey, I got it right. So GPP, I already mentioned. Chicago White Sox. I love playing the Chicago White Sox going up against left-handed bats. Even with their offensive struggles, they're still one of the best teams in the entire league against left-handed pitching. Milwaukee, Toronto. I already talked about Toronto going up against Smeltzer. I can see Smeltzer getting some ownership, just because, the hype and the game logs and everything. So yeah, Toronto, they're still Toronto. San Francisco, I just kind of threw them in there. I'm not really too excited about them, to be completely honest. Leverage plays going up against, the chalky pitchers of Giolito, of Gossman. And then cheap plays. I really like Baltimore. I think Baltimore could, a Chicago White Sox, Baltimore GPP stack could be very intriguing. You could even pair Baltimore, with like filling gaps with, if you Houston and Cincinnati, if you do want to pay up at SP2. So I mean, that kind of is the slate in a nutshell. We kind of just saw here as we were building, or as I was building, salary is not going to be too much of an issue. You can pretty much jam in whoever you want. Houston's going to be your number 1 stack, but they're pretty affordable, all things considered. I mean, let's see, put them, 5.1, 5.15. They're affordable. You can throw in, there's enough cheap options in Gibson, in Castillo, that you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So that kind of wraps things up. I know this was like just totally out there. I felt like I was jumping around like crazy, but I got the information out. Giolito, favorite, Houston, top. There you go. As always, good luck in your contest. And please come back. We'll be having videos every day out for you this week, including some of the early slates. If the early slates have at least 4 games to them. So please come back, check us out. Good luck in your contest, and we will see you in the next video.